this great divine personality who appeared 500 years ago. We're actually sitting in his birthplace right now. This place is a place 120 kilometers from Kolkata in West Bengal. And it's the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came 500 years ago with the intention of spreading bhakti all over the world. And it is described that, I think someone has to be muted. I think, can we mute? Yes, thank you. So, so there are so many different processes offered in the Vedic tradition for self-realization. So in the previous ages, so it's described that there are 4 ages, and in each of the age, there is a particular method given for self-realization.
According to the Vedic calendar, the universal cycle is divided into a repeating cycle of 4 ages: Sata, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali Yuga. And the longest is the Sata, which is 1.7 million years, and then Treta is a quarter less, Dwapara is half of Satyuga, and Kali Yuga is about 430,000 years. So in each yuga, Krishna is very mindful of giving us the most effective means of self-realization, because that is the purpose of this material creation, is to give everybody a chance to practice some method of self-realization so they can reconnect with God.
So like, just like you have a particular vaccine for a particular kind of virus, right? And they are so careful at fine-tuning that vaccine. So it works just so on that particular virus. So in the same way, there is a particular kind of meditation or practice, spiritual practice that is given. So in Kali Yuga, the great devotees and the Supreme Person, they could see that it is characterized, this age is actually characterized by chaos and turmoil and disturbance and quarrel, conflict. At the slightest provocation, they can be quarrel between countries, between neighbors, between families. So all the previous methods of self-realization are actually quite ineffective in this age of Kali Yuga, because our minds are so disturbed and our lifespans are constantly, we are continuously dealing with constant unexpected challenges. So it's not really possible for us to retire into the Himalayas or go sit in a cave and meditate for a long time,
especially to give up what we are doing, because in today's day and age, we want to practice spirituality along with the life that we are living. And how do we do that? And that is basically the whole thirst of Lord Chaitanya, is to combine or dovetail our current situation to our advantage in making spiritual progress.
Yeah, because, in the earlier times, and this is actually something we all encountered when somebody takes up spiritual life. In their heart, there is this fear that, it means that I have to give up everything. I have to quit my current life and then, and just retire into the forest or into the cave. But Lord Chaitanya's method, understanding the nature of this age, was like, no, you don't have to do that. You can just stay where you are, whatever situation one is in, whatever profession, whatever family life, and just add the spiritual vibration to one's life. And this is not a step down. Sometimes, concessions are seen as a step down, but it's not a step down. It's actually considered that just by doing that, one attains the most confidential and the highest perfection of spiritual life, which was not available in all the previous ages, has been readily made available in this age of Kali Yuga. And so there are many great personalities and sages who actually worship this age of Kali Yuga because of this particular reason, that it offers what no other age has ever offered before.
On other ages, it would require very high qualification to enter that stage, and it would require a lot of time, a lot of energy to get to that perfection. The same thing can be achieved in Kali Yuga in a very short period of time while living our normal lives, and also becoming an example for others to follow.
So it's described that who would not who would not take it? Such a good, such a good proposition. So this proposition was actually brought by Lord Chaitanya, who is actually described in our ancient Vedic text as being Krishna himself, coming in the form of his own greatest devotee, Sri Radha, the divine feminine. And so the divine feminine and the divine masculine, they both came together and came in this mood of magnanimity, because generally speaking, in India especially, spirituality was confined to the elite few. And it was sort of restricted within the very sort of high ivory towers of these ancient temples and wasn't available for the common people. But he came and he broke that, and he said, no, it's meant for anyone and everyone. Nothing is a bar, not our gender, not our background, not our race, not our education, not our age, nothing. And so it truly is a very non-sectarian and a very broad universal approach to developing this deep love for God.
And it's like Harvard and Princeton going to like the most backward places in the country and saying, hey, we'll give you a PhD.
Yeah.
The highest degree that you can think of, we'll give you that. That's Lord Chaitanya's plan, is to not just give spirituality to everybody so people can be comfortable in the material world, but to give the highest perfection of spirituality, which is to develop this pure love of God. And that's what this mantra meditation that we are practicing. Yes, we get peace. Yes, we get freedom from stress. Those are just minor side effects of practicing this mantra meditation. What we get is much higher. So that's what Lord Chaitanya. So we'll introduce Lord Chaitanya to you, because that's the mantra we chant. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. So we'll introduce him through the Bhagavad Purana, because Bhagavad Purana explains clearly who is an incarnation and who is not. And then we'll also explore, he explained this whole science of this mantra meditation, these 8 verses, and then we'll explore the first verse today.
To share.
So let me share my screen. So this is a verse from the Bhagavad Purana where the Krishna's appearance in every yuga is mentioned. And this is how we know that somebody is an incarnation or not. So here it is said about Lord Chaitanya, it said, Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam Yagye Sankirtana Praye Ejanti Hi Sumedasaha. Bhagavad Purana, 11th canto, 5th chapter, 32nd verse.
In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, his Krishna himself is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. So we'll now get into these 8 beautiful verses, which, where do we go?
So this is it's called Sikshastakam, or 8 teachings by Lord Chaitanya. And this is the first teaching that basically explains the benefit of chanting this mantra. Padam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtana.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years together. Thus the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death is extinguished. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it helps us to have a taste of the full nectar for which we are always anxious.
They will give us what is the purpose of that composition. So this 8-verse composition, Lord Chaitanya explains the benefit of this chanting. So we can be fully convinced and our heart be attracted towards it. When we hear the benefits, then our heart gets attracted. So the first benefit, he says that it cleans the heart. The heart is compared to a darpan or a mirror, and that heart has been accumulating this dust of material contamination, material desires for lifetime after lifetime. And there is no detergent that can clean that. But this mantra is the most powerful thing that can clean that heart, no matter how deep the dust is.
Yeah, and when that happens, there is a forest fire. This is something that our great teachers talk about, this great forest fire. Nobody goes into the forest to start a fire, but it happens, right? Just by the friction of the trees and the wind that blows. And so in the same way, this whole material world is actually compared to a great forest fire, and not a small little can of water can actually extinguish that.
But just like we are experiencing this forest fire right now in the form of this COVID, and it suddenly came up, nobody started it, and it's burning everybody.
Yeah, and so what can extinguish a forest fire is a rain shower. So this chanting is actually like a rain shower that can extinguish this great burning. This heart is actually burning in anguish, all of us. And Emerson said that men lead lives but of quiet desperation. So we all live in these little spaces where we feel this despair and think that it's just us. But here is this cloud that can completely extinguish it.
And then next it says that not only it extinguishes the fire, but the real benefit comes next. It says it is the prime benediction. Sankirtan also means coming together to chant. So this is what we're doing. We're coming together to chant these names, this mantra. And this is a prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. So Kairava is a special lotus flower, blue lotus flower that comes out at night when it sees the moon. So similarly, Lord Chaitanya is compared to this moon. And when we see Lord Chaitanya through this mantra, then our heart, the lotus in our heart basically blossoms, and which means that our heart becomes filled with this transcendental knowledge.
Actually, our heart is right now compared to a closed, like tight bud, and it's in its completely unblossomed
it's
state.
like a steel framed.
Yeah, it's steel framed. So when the rays of this loving, compassionate moon, falls on this lotus, then gradually this bud starts to open up. And that's the blossoming of the heart, where we can actually experience the love and the happiness and the sweetness, that the rasa that we're all looking for. When the heart opens, a closed heart cannot experience it.
And next it says Vidya Vadhu Jivanam, which means it's the life of all transcendental knowledge. Means that there are so many ways transcendental knowledge is presented in the Vedas, but this is the essence. This is the greatest essence that the sages have found of transcendental knowledge.
And finally, we're all looking for some taste. We're running around in this world, visiting places. Why? Because we're looking for some nectar. And without that nectar, and wherever we go, we think we have found that nectar, only for that nectar to then turn into poison. So that nectar that the heart is hankering for actually is to be found in this process of chanting and sankirtan. So this is to encourage us that we should not doubt, we should not hold ourselves back, but rather we should offer ourselves completely to this process of chanting so that we can feel completely satisfied. That is the reason why all of this is being presented, is so that each one of us and every single living entity in this world can experience this complete satisfaction, which is really and truly their birthright.
Yeah, and so when we are chanting this mantra, Hare Krishna, these are beach seeds, and in Hare, the complete divine energy is present, personally present for us. Krishna, who is the supreme divine, who is all attractive, is personally present to attract our hearts. We just have to just open it. And Rama is the source of all happiness and pleasure, who is personally present for each one of us to share with us that happiness. So we can tonight when we chant, we try to open our heart and welcome and receive this mantra in our heart.
Actually, I just wanted to say something, that maybe it may not be so possible for us to open our heart, but what we can do is let that sun, let the rays of the moon just fall on our heart. And then if we just receive those rays, then the heart, in response to those rays, will automatically start opening. So let's try that. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you all for participating. Today is day 12, is it?
Day 12.
Day 12. So congratulations to all of you
for crossing the half line.
Yeah, crossing the half line. It's really, really very auspicious and wonderful. So we'll pause here and see if you have any reflections or any questions or comments or anything you want to talk about. It's wonderful to see you, Simpi and Tina. And
I have a question.
yes, Aditi.
Hello. I'm curious if, like, when you do 16 rounds, like, how do you prepare? Like, what I would just be curious to know, like, what are, like, can you drink water? Do you take breaks, or do you sit for like a continuous 16 rounds?
Yeah, I mean, initially when we are, yeah, you can take breaks, you can drink water, you can drink tea. I guess in between, some people break it like during the day, so they will chant 4 or 6 rounds um, in the morning and some rounds in the middle of the day, and then finish it off. Ideal if you can do it in the morning,
Early morning
early
hours.
morning, do all of them together. That's the ideal. And of course, you can drink water and tea or whatever else that your body needs. There's no restriction.
The main thing in this is to be able to sit down with the sound vibration and be able to hear whatever facilitates that.
And while not doing anything else.
While not doing anything. The main thing to avoid is we don't want to be, browsing the web or looking at our cell phone or being distracted. The idea is to create this sacred, quiet space where we can really delve deep into the sound. And some devotees chant like maybe 12 rounds in the morning and maybe finish up with four, like you said, 4, 4, 4. Or, some devotees chant for 16 all at once. So it all depends on your life situation. But yeah, there is no hard and fast rule. That's another thing that Lord Chaitanya speaks about, that in this process of chanting mantra meditation, there are no rules.
You don't even have to take a bath. Many people ask, do I have to take a bath before I start chanting? No, you don't have to take a bath even. So many times, yeah, you just wake up and you just wake up and chant.
If you want to go for a walk and chant, that's fine too. Right? So there are no rules. The main rule, of course, there are rules. If you want to follow it, the way it has been done traditionally, then of course you sit down in a lotus position and then you sit down for 2 hours. But in our, there is a lot of room for flexibility depending on like Rupa Goswami says, of all these rules, the main rule is to be able to always hear the sound and remember.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aditi. Hey, Renu, it's so good to see you. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, and Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. My question is, so the verse that we discussed today, it says that the Mahamantra, it cleanses our heart, right? So my question is, like, what gets cleansed? And like, what's the process? Like, how does it happen?
Yes, very, very good question. What gets cleansed? Our heart accumulates over this lifetime. Our heart is like a sponge. It very quickly absorbs the sounds and the sights and whatever is attractive in this material world. It very quickly absorbs that and then starts desiring that. So all those desires, our heart gets filled with envy, anger. All these things are compared to dust, unwanted things, anarthas, some things that is not good for us. So it's like the contamination of the heart over lifetimes after lifetimes, and this keeps on accumulating because there is nothing to clean it.
I was just thinking that, I guess it seems to me that you're really trying to understand, like, what is this heart? And, what I was thinking was it's kind of like a river. Consciousness is like a flowing river. And if the flowing river has a lot of impurities, a lot of, like contaminated, polluted water, you can't really see through that. So in fact, there is a story of, not a story actually, the salmon fish, right? That how it swims upstream to go back to its source. And there was remember this devotee who, I think it was Vaisheshika Prabhu and Radhanath Swami, they were visiting this park and they met the forest ranger. And the forest ranger had a little, some kind of a stick with some magnet attached to it. And so they asked him that, what are you guys doing? What are you doing? So he said that I'm picking up what he called micro trash. And he said the reason why he was picking up that micro trash was because when the salmon fish swims upstream, even that little amount of trash that's there can actually distract the fish from being able to swim upstream back to its source. So in the same way, our consciousness is like a river that has collected a lot of this trash from countless lifetimes, impressions, desires, proclivities,
likes and dislikes,
and attachments and aversions or repulsions, judgments, prejudices, so many things. And all of that gets in the way of our being able to swim back to our original source. So this mantra meditation is like, it comes and it scrubs the mirror of the heart. That's one analogy, or it cleans that consciousness so that the consciousness becomes completely clear. And now, our journey back to our original sources completely without any obstruction.
You're asking how does it happen? The example that is given is that, like, before the sun even comes up in the sky, even the first rays of the sun, they are sufficient to remove the fog and then remove the darkness, right? So we don't have to do any effort. We just wait for the sun to come out. So similarly, in this cleansing process, we don't have to do anything other than just to listen to the mantra. And the mantra does the work of removing the darkness. It's like a sun that is arising in our heart, and the darkness just goes away, right? The darkness doesn't have to do anything, just the sun has to just come out.
Yeah, and the reason why that happens is because what is the difference between the relative world and the absolute world? The difference is that in this relative world, there is a difference between the name and the object that it names. For example, I may love mangoes, but there's a difference between the word mango and the object mango. And just by saying mango, 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 I cannot experience the taste of mango. In the absolute realm, that distinction is completely eradicated. So the word, the name, the sound, and the named, they're actually identical. So when we actually say these names, then we directly, that person, that personality, that absolute truth is fully manifest in the sound. And so that's how the cleansing happens. Because when you come in contact with the sun, then the sun can eradicate the darkness. There's nothing else that can eradicate. You cannot fight the darkness away. But the darkness automatically goes away as soon as the sun rises, like you were saying.
Another example that is given, that you go to a dark cave, which has been dark for years and years and thousands of years maybe, right? And if you go into the dark cave and you lit a candle or a matchstick, the whole the cave will light up. And the darkness cannot say that I have been here for thousands of years. It will take me a long time to light up because of that, but it doesn't take that. As soon as the first rays of light comes out, the darkness goes away. So similarly, when this mantra arises in our heart, when Krishna sees that we're sincerely, really trying to receive this mantra, then he lights up the lamp in our heart. He says in the Bhagavad Gita, Dadami buddhi yogam tam, tesham evam anukampartam, aham ajnana jan tamo, nashyami atma bhavasto, jnana deepena bhasvata, jnana deepena. This transcendental knowledge arises in our heart.
Got it. Yeah, thanks for the wonderful explanation.
Thank you. Such a wonderful question.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Kakali. So grateful for all of your presence here. Is there anyone else with anything they want to maybe talk about? Guru Shankar, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, it's every day. It's a new experience for me. So I'm just enjoying it, and I'm getting more and more deep into it. Thanks to both of you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Guru Shankar. So with that, I think we will stop here today and we'll continue our session tomorrow. And yeah, look forward to seeing you guys again. Thank you very much. Thank you all.